Would you eat cultivated meat? By cultivated meat, I'm referring to lab-grown meat, also known as cultured meat. I can see some of you wincing even now. But this is another rapidly developing technology. More and more countries are regulating for the approval of its commercial sale. On the 4th of April, the ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, posted an article announcing that Australian lab-grown meat cultured from quail cells had hit the markets in Singapore. This was presented as a parfait, and the company who makes it, Vow, decided it was better to take this approach with lab-grown meat rather than trying to imitate beef or chicken or any other existing meat. That way it has a kind of gourmet quality rather than a substitute quality. However, other companies throughout the world are not shying away from creating beef, pork, chicken, or any other meat. Though these products are at present very expensive, the aim is to produce them at a large scale and offer a viable alternative to natural meat. There are clearly enormous benefits to this, to the environment, for example. Farm or factory produced meat is very bad for the environment in many ways, and most of these lab produced meats avoid. It's better for the animals, obviously. Animals don't need to die for the production of this meat, and they don't have to be maintained under inhumane conditions. Land can be freed up and returned to nature. This meat's also potentially healthier. It can be grown with extra omega-3 fatty acids, for instance. It's uncontaminated by pesticides or fertilizers or antibiotics, which is actually a huge problem today. At the moment, it's expensive, but that won't be the case for very long, I think. In many countries, production is being rapidly scaled up. There are still some health issues to work through here and there, in some cases, preventing contamination, for example. But honestly, these look fairly minor and innocuous and easy to overcome compared with the problems of actual farming. How will vegetarians respond to this? Well, it depends on their motivation for becoming vegetarians. If it was out of concern for the welfare of animals, for instance, rather than for perceived health reasons, I can see no reason why vegetarians would choose not to eat this cultured meat. Religious communities are already answering questions about where this kind of meat fits in with their dietary regulations. Last year, apparently, the chief rabbi of Israel, David Lau, ruled that cultured meat not derived from the flesh of existing animals is kosher and not considered meat. Thus, it should be treated as a vegetarian product. On the 3rd of February this year, apparently, a fatwa was issued saying that cultivated meat could be considered halal if the cells were sourced from animals that Muslims are allowed to consume, and that there's no mixing of non-halal components in the production process. So it's looking pretty good from the religious perspective. There are a few cultural issues to consider. In November last year, Italian MPs voted to back a law banning the production, sale and import of cultivated meat or animal feed in what the right-wing government called a defence of Italian tradition. I'm not sure this will hold up in the long run. Although the US has approved consumption of cultured meat, some individual states have apparently banned it. Florida and Alabama. Others are considering it. Arizona, Kentucky, Tennessee and West Virginia. Again, I'm not sure that these will hold out in the long run. But how widely will these products be accepted by the public? I suspect it will be a long battle to win over the general public, though I don't think it should be. The benefits seem so obvious to me, but people will be squeamish, initially at least. There'll always be those who see it as unnatural, which of course it is, but as if this alone meant that anything was either good or bad. Some will perhaps reject it on aesthetic grounds, taste, texture and appearance for instance, though I suspect in a blind experiment it will be ultimately impossible to tell the difference. I can see no reason why cultured meat might not actually taste, look, and feel better than natural meat. But, logic and facts rarely get in the way of people's convictions or prejudices. Would you eat it? I certainly would, depending on the cost, mainly. I don't actually eat much meat these days. Partly that's because of the cost. I also tend to prefer lighter meals, so when I do include some meat, it's usually far outweighed by the quantity of vegetables. But I don't avoid meat for health or ethical reasons. I like the taste of many meats. So if it tastes good and it's relatively inexpensive, sure I'll eat it.